Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Introducing Jotform Apps. I'm Annabelle Ma, Director of Communications at Jotform. So Apps is one of Jotform's biggest launches to date, and we're incredibly excited both about the rollout itself and to tell you more about it today. So we rolled out Jotform Apps just a few weeks ago, so maybe you've had the chance to check it out already. If you have, you're in good company. We saw a record amount of interest and have loved seeing all of the new apps that our users have already created. But if today's session is your first introduction to Jotform Apps, you'll leave with everything you need to get started right away. So here at Jotform, we are some of our own biggest users. And in this case, we actually created apps to respond to a specific internal need. Our workplace team works very closely with Jotformers around the company to collect feedback, provide resources, and generally make Jotformers' lives easier while at work. With so many moving parts, you can imagine this used to mean a lot of juggling the right forms and traveling throughout the office to connect with employees about requests. With a variety of different forms and tools in play, the team eventually realized that a centralized hub would keep everything together, making it easy to manage and easy to share with anyone in the company. Ultimately, we developed this into a full-fledged product with space not just for forms, but for announcements, built-in messaging options, and all the design functionality you've come to expect from Jotform. This turns into a collection of resources that you can turn into a shareable mobile app that you can customize for any business or service. So for example, if you're a tutor looking to help students find the best resources for them, schedule appointments, and accept tutoring applications, apps can help you create that one-stop shop to help you grow your business. Or even if you're an HR department looking to gather employee feedback, manage time cards, and make yourself available for concerns, apps can help you do that very efficiently. Best of all, this requires absolutely no coding, so anyone can take advantage of Jotform apps, no matter the level of coding expertise or experience that you have. So that's how we got to where we are, and we are so excited about apps. So for the rest of today's session, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Morgan Zions, our webinar manager, to share more about why you should be excited about apps as well. Morgan will talk more about why apps are important overall and everything that Jotform Apps brings to the table. She'll then share a demo of how to create your own app from scratch. And at the end of the session, we'll have some time to answer your questions. And we'll also have Felipe and Taylor from our support team here to help with those. So without further ado, passing the mic over to Morgan.
Great. Thank you, Annabelle. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. So I wanted to start by talking about who Jotform Apps is for, or why you might be interested in building an app. Depending on what survey you read, US customers spend between 3.25 and 4.25 hours per day in apps, and that's pretty well aligned with the worldwide average. In fact, a recent TechCrunch article with data from App Annie shows that in some countries, like Indonesia, Brazil, and South Korea, that's actually over 5 hours a day. That same survey showed that in-app time has increased year over year in nearly all markets since 2019. And in some cases, like Russia, Indonesia, and Turkey, the increase has been about 50% in that time span. In India, it's actually been an 80% increase in the past 2 years. So the current reality is that we are on our phones a lot, and we're in apps a lot. So it makes sense that that's where your customers hope to be able to interact with you because that's where they are, and that's where things are happening. However, a Locology article from early this year interviewed small and medium business owners to ask if they had apps, and only 32%, so about a third of those surveyed, said that they did have an app. However, another 42%, about another third of the respondents did say that they wanted an app. An older survey from Endurance tried to tackle this same question. So they asked small and medium business owners who didn't have apps why they didn't have apps. And I am actually going to launch this poll here to ask the audience, you guys, the same thing. So if you don't have an app currently, these are the responses from the Endurance survey. Or maybe if you've already built an app, but you've done it kind of recently, you can fill this out as well, either with Jotform or with another platform. I'm going to go ahead and fill that out. I will give another couple. Wow, there's You guys are responding very quickly. Thanks. Give another couple of seconds here for responses. And looks like we're slowing down. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Great. So I'm going to show you what the endurance survey showed. And actually, the responses today are pretty spot on. I'm a little surprised about that because I had prepared to try to talk about what the differences might be. But so in the endurance survey, 50% of respondents said that it was because they didn't know how to build one. 23% said that it was because they didn't have time. 22% concerned about cost and 5% concerned about security. So really the majority of people responded that they weren't building an app because either they didn't think they could do it on their own or because they weren't sure if they had the funds to pay somebody to do it. And really, this is, again, almost exactly in line with what our results are here today. So we have 49% that don't know how to build one. 25% say that you don't have the time to create or maintain one. 19% say it's too expensive to create or maintain, and then 7% about security. So really pretty spot on with that survey, even a couple of years later. Overall, I think this exercise is a good opportunity to really consider what your barriers are and think about, why it is that you may not have an app. And again, really, we're here to tell you that those don't have to be concerns. So to go back to the question that I posed a minute or so ago in that first slide that I was speaking on, who are apps for? Why should you be interested? The answer is that Jotform Apps is for anybody who hasn't built an app because you have one of those concerns. It's also for folks who haven't really considered an app previously, but realize that it'll broaden your ability to reach customers, whomever they might be, wherever they are. And apps is also for those who recognize the value of having everything easily manageable, shareable, and easy to analyze in one single location. So that's more like the example Annabelle mentioned at the top about our workforce team. We've removed those prevailing time and cost concerns, so you can get started without too much trouble. To go a little bit more in depth about how Jotform Apps meets these needs or speaks to these concerns, Apps increases your organization's productivity and reach by reducing the amount of effort you're currently taking to manage getting the right thing to the right person at all times. It also gives you space to expand your customer base by meeting folks where they are. We're on our phones all the time, so why not make yourself available to folks on their phones? The most significant ways that Apps meets these needs is by bundling all of your relevant forms and resources into one single shareable location, by helping you build and maintain an app without any coding experience or any additional expense to you, and by being available to anybody on the internet, whether they're coming from a website on the computer or one of those iOS or Android-powered mobile devices we all love so much. So for most, actually, I did want to talk a little bit more about some use cases before I move on to the demo. So the applications for apps are pretty broad. And just within Jotform, in addition to our workforce team, we now have multiple teams using apps. So that workforce team that we've talked about has an app that includes hardware and software requests, as well as training requests. Our HR department has leave time off requests and employee referrals. And here in marketing, we have an app where we can request social or video production. Whether you fall into a category similar to what we're doing with apps, or you are a trainer wanting to solicit and manage clients and share their annual progress with them, or a school looking to share your latest updates as well as get financial aid requests or uniform order forms, whatever the case may be, or any of the examples Annabelle mentioned at the top of the session, or anything and everything in between, Apps has you covered. So now I'll move into talking about the demo. So I'm going to spend the next 15, 20 minutes in a demo of Apps. Before I get started, I did want to just briefly give you a rundown of how it works, so you have that context as I'm going through the demo. So you can start either with a form that you already have, you can start with a template, or you can start entirely from scratch with a blank slate. And once you have your app ready, you can customize it, look and feel, as well as adding elements in much the same way that you would edit your forms. If you're already a Jotform user, it should be pretty familiar to you. The last things that you'll need to do are to name your app, pick an app icon, because that's essential to having an app, and then you'll share it out with whomever you want to use it and start getting people to use your app. So on that note, I'm going to go out into our demo here, and I'm starting our demo logged into my Jotform account. And before I move forward, I did want to reiterate something that I think both Annabelle and I have mentioned, it's not glossed over at all, because I know this has been a big question. I get all the questions that you submit in the registration. So I know that this has come up frequently. So everything that I'm about to show you, if you're a Jotform user, is available to you right now, regardless of what plan you use. So there's no additional fee to use it. It's all there. You can get started right away. If you're not already a Jotform user and you're more of a hands-on learner like I am, and you want to play around with it to figure everything out, you can get started by creating an account for free on jotform.com. So you can also get started right away. For this demo, I'm going to be creating an app for Cookies for Koalas. That's a fictitious charity that's been popping up in our recent webinars. And I have 3 different giving forms for my charity. We have this one-time giving, our sponsorship form, and our recurring donation form. And basically, I want an app that will combine all of these into one place, so I can just share one single link or QR code or whatever with people to get them to donate, rather than sending multiple different links. That will also make it so that I can manage all of their responses in one single place. I also want to maybe even use this to solicit additional donations. If somebody is seeing the latest from my organization and maybe even see some cute koala pictures to see who their donations are helping. And maybe if they see that there are multiple ways to donate, they might even be encouraged to donate a little bit more. So that's my motivation for creating an app. But really, I just want to get the word out to anybody who might like to donate in the future. So I mentioned that you have a couple of different ways to get started. The first is to start with a form, and then your other option would be to go to a separate My Apps tab. So we're currently on the My Forms tab, which is what you see when you log into Jotform. Forms are the base for everything that we do at Jotform. So that makes sense that that's what you see when you log in. But there is a separate tab for apps, and the other options will be on that tab. I'm going to start with a form here, and there are a couple of different ways that you can do that. They all do the same thing. So when you click on the checkbox next to one of your forms, you'll see that there are a number of options that pop up along the top that help you navigate to other Jotform tools that you can access for that form. And in this case, there is also an apps option, or now there's also an apps option. So when you click that, you can click Create New App, and you can start from there with your form. Also, on the right-hand side of any form title, when you click that checkbox or hover over a form, are actions you can take with the form itself. And under that More dropdown is a pretty exhaustive list of the things you can do with your forms. Under Publish here, the last option is to create an app. So that's 2 ways. The last way is if you're already in your form. So if you're creating a form right now and you want to immediately turn that into an app, or if you're editing a form and want to create an app from there, you can open up your form. Again, you want to go to the Publish tab here, and it's at the bottom of the page. So now I've created an app based on that form. And I wanted to point out that when you do create an app from a form, the settings and design of the form will carry over into your app, and the app itself will just be the form until you add other elements. So this is our form. You can see, we have the blue, we have the logo at the top. And when I switch over to the app here, very similar look and feel. That logo is also being used as the app icon, which is what you see here. And the title is the same as the form title. Any of this can be changed at any time, and you can always add additional elements to this to build out your app. But that's just something to keep in mind, that whether you want to mimic design or you don't, that is what happens when you get started with a form. I'm going to go back to our forms home at this point. You can get back to that home screen by clicking the Jotform logo anywhere within Jotform. Right next to the logo, you'll see an indication of what tab you're on, what screen you're using. So this is the My Forms page again. This is also a drop-down menu where you can navigate to other Jotform tools. So we can also click here to go to my apps. On this apps tab, you can take action on any of the apps you've already created. So you can edit, delete, look at the submissions, etc. And you can create a new app up here. When you click that button to create a new app, you can start from scratch, which I'm going to come back to in a second here, or you can use the template. Our team has created these templates based on a ton of research that they've done into who might most need an app most immediately. As with other places within Jotform where we have templates available, you can search using keywords at the top here. You can browse by category, kind of broken down by type of app and by industry. So if you want a human resources app or you want a healthcare app, you can browse all of those. You can also filter and sort down here. When you see an app that seems like it might be a pretty good fit, you can kind of hover over it to get a better sense of it. And you can also preview. In preview, you can look at the full thing. You can also switch the views, so you'll know what this looks like on mobile, tablet, or desktops. And there's a QR code here where you can actually download the app onto your phone and start using it on your phone to play around with it and see how it works. If this turns out to be a good fit for you, you can hit Use Template. That will clone a copy of the app into your account. And from there, just like with the form, starting with the form, you can make any changes that you need to. If this design seems like a little much to you, you can always change that, for example. The last option to get started is that Start from Scratch option. So back on my apps home, I'm going to hit Create App again, and now I'm going to start from scratch, and I'm going to build an app just from scratch right now to show you how this all works. So I mentioned that if you're already using Jotform, this should look pretty familiar to you. It's very similar layout-wise to our forms. You have your Build tab, which is what we're in right now. This is where you'll create the app. You have your Settings tab, and you have your Publish tab. Your elements of what you'll be adding to the app are on the left-hand side, and Design is on the right with this paint roller icon. There are some default color schemes, or you can apply your own. You can even add a background image or change the font. And with apps, you have a number of different layout options that you can choose. So as you're adding to your app, if you don't think that the default layout that I'll be showing today really highlights what you most want to highlight, or if it looks a little bit messy for what you're doing, you have 11 options here of different layouts that you can try with your app. I'm going to stick with just the basics today, just to keep it nice and clean. And then the next thing I want to do is just start adding things to my app. So I'm going to open the Add Element panel here. You have your basic elements as well as widgets. The basic elements are going to be the things that make up the majority of what you're doing with your app, or the most essential pieces probably of what you're doing with your app, like forms or links or documents to download. We have some featured widgets here that help provide like media and a little bit of, zhuzhing it up a little bit. You can incorporate some other Jotform tools. So if you want to add in a table or a report for download, you can add those to your app. And if you're creating something that is a bit more in depth than what I'll be showing you today, you also have page elements to help keep everything organized. I'm not going to be showing any widgets today, but I did want to just scroll through because, again, this was another question that came in during registration quite a bit, like a lot of like, can I add this and can I add this? So there are widgets here. For example, if you want to add a playlist or, GIFs or whatever, GIFs or GIFs, whatever you want to call them, you do have a number of different options here for things that you can add to kind of add that flavor to your app. So I'm not going to show any of those, but adding them and editing them happen the same way as the basic elements. You'll just click or drag and drop to add them in. And then each element has its own settings that you can open up to, fix that to be whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to start with a form. Again, as with most things in Jotform, forms are the basis of what we do. So, forms are probably where you're going to be starting. And again, I want to add those 3 cookies for Koala's donation forms. I've clicked form. All of my forms show up. I used cookies as a search term to pull up the ones I needed, and I can add those to my app. really at this point, my app is done. I'm ready to publish it and share it and, go live. I do want to add a little bit more in this case to make it a little bit nicer, but you really could share this at this point. And this does serve the purpose of collecting everything in one location. And it does also serve the purpose of making it so that you can spread your word more wisely, whether you're a charity or a small business, whatever you're doing. But in this case, I'm also going to add in a heading here, as well as I'm going to add 2 different headings, and I'm going to add in a paragraph element. I'm dragging and dropping these where I want them to appear on the page. I'm going to add a button and a social media option so people can connect with us on socials. And the last thing I'm going to add is an image slider. I actually want that to be above my heading. There we go. So now to edit any of these, I can either click on them or click on them and either edit them directly or look for that settings, that gear widget icon there to open up settings. And here I can change the name. I'm just going to say welcome. In my paragraph here, we have a WYSIWYG editor where we can include whatever we want to share about the company or the organization. Let's say November was the 3rd month over donations. Check it out in our newsletter. So I've now just said, there's more information in our newsletter below. I can share a newsletter by, linking out to it on our website somewhere, by making it available for download as a document, or even sharing an image of a newsletter if I wanted to. The next thing I want to do is to edit my button here. The button I think is especially neat because the button will automatically perform an action based on what you tell it to do. So we can have that be a URL link, an email link. We can have it actually call our organization, navigate to a page within the app, or automatically open a form. So in this case, I'm going to have it be an email, send an email to us. There is default text for what we're calling this, as well as the default recipient, me in this case, since it's my account, but that can be changed if need be. And you also have some style options here as well. Social is very similar. So again, opening up the settings, you're just going to add in your links to social or change them from Jotform to whatever your organization's links are. And you have a number of different options here. For the images, again, I'm going to open the settings panel. So I hope it's this pretty straightforward. You're just going to open up the settings to do whatever you need to do. In this case, I'm going to choose some adorable koala photos to get people to donate more by seeing what these cute little creatures look like. So I'll have that available as an image slider here. See, we can click through it. There's also some transition options. And then the last thing I want to do is change the heading here so that it's pretty clear what my what this is. These are donation forms. So I really want to make sure that people see that our donation forms are on this page as well. And then the forms are there. So at this point, I've added everything that I wanted to add to my app. And the last couple of things I want to do on this page are to change the title from app title to cookies for koalas. And I want to change the icon here. I can add an image if I want, or there are some like emoji style icons. There are a couple hundred of those to choose from. So I know from demos that there's not a koala option, but I've been enjoying using various different animals as I kind of run through what this looks like. So we'll choose a penguin today. And now I'm ready to go. So this is my app title and this is the icon. If you missed that, there are also some options to change the color of this as well. So now I'm going to move to the settings tab. Settings are your overall settings. So, build is where you add in individual elements. Settings is sort of your overall big picture settings. So here you can determine if your app is enabled or disabled, or if you want to disable it after a certain time. And you can determine if people using your app can continue forms later, or if they'll see a progress bar, and if they can add this app to their home screen. If you haven't already added or changed that name and icon that I just showed you on the build tab, you can do that here. And then the last option here is to choose a splash page color. So this is what people will see as your app is loading. This dark blue is a little too dark for my app, so I'm going to go with this lighter blue option. The last step really is to just go to the Publish tab and start sharing your app. So there are a couple of different ways to do that. First, you can share with a link. Another question we got pretty commonly was whether you can restrict access, like private access, or to folks within your organization. So I just clicked that, what you see here, this public access button here. You can change to private or company only access. For company only, you'll apply your company domain. So you do have access options here. You can also invite people by email. So in my organization, if I want to email everybody who's been a donor in the past 10 years and say, hey, this is the best way to find us moving forward. Or if you're a small business and you want to say, send this to everybody who's bought something from you in the past couple of years, whatever the case may be, you can include a message here as well. And if you have a big list of folks to send to, you can upload a CSV file of those email addresses. There is a QR code option, which I'm going to come back to momentarily, but there's also the embed code option. So WordPress plugin, as well as the option to copy code to embed. To go back to the QR code, you can also share this with the QR code. So just like I showed you with the template that I showed, I've now generated a QR code for my app. You can actually, if you have your phone handy, you can actually take it out, scan this right now, and scroll through the cookies for Koala's app, maybe even fill out one of the forms and say hi. The QR code is super helpful. You can share this everywhere digitally, on your socials, on your website, wherever you need to. You could also print this. If you have a physical brick and mortar store and you want people to know that they can find you online 24/7, you can print this out and have it available, in your window or at the, cashier's desk or whatever the case may be, and share it that way. So some of you may have checked this out. Unfortunately, I can't show you what this looks like on a phone because of the demo, but I can show you that you can preview your app at any time. So I can't show you my phone specifically, but I can show you what this would look like on a phone. So if you do think that you might want to adjust the layout that I mentioned, or you want to do a final spell check before you share the app broadly, this is a really helpful way to be able to see what people will see when they're using your app. On mobile, here we have the mobile, we can scroll through the pictures, and those donation forms are, they're below the fold, but, it's a pretty short app. They're not too far below the fold. So there's still, it's still pretty obvious that they're there. You can switch the orientation. You can also view by tablet or on a desktop view. So you can check it out and see and make any changes that you need to before launching. When you're done previewing the app, you can just toggle that to off and you're back where you started, and you can actually access that wherever you are in the app. So on the app builder. So whether you're in build, settings, or publish, that preview option is always there. So that's really it. Again, this I know was a very simple app. I didn't add a ton here, and that was for the sake of brevity as well as for the sake of keeping it as a good starting point. I know some of you will have more in-depth things that you need to create, but hopefully this has given you a good sense of how you would go about doing that. Again, pretty easy. Drag and drop the elements you need. Look for that settings little element to add or change any of the settings, and then you just share it out and get people to start using it. So on that note, I'm going to turn things back over to Annabelle. She's going to moderate Q&A for us. And I know, again, we have Felipe here, and I think Taylor is going to be joining us as well for Q&A. So I will pass the mic back over.
Awesome. Morgan, thanks so much for that overview. It was really in-depth and great learnings. Great. So now to jump into the Q&A, we have quite a few questions today, which is great. Let's see. So the first one is, are there any limits to how many forms you can include in your apps?
Hi, so I'm Felipe, and I'm one of the support members here at Jotform. So the question, is there a limit to how many forms you can add to an app? And the answer is no. You can add as many forms as your subscription allows. So based on your subscription level, you will be limited to a certain number of forms, but as many forms as you can create on your account, you can add to an app.
Excellent. Thank you, Felipe. Let's see. The next one is, can we add our own branding to the app? Yeah, that one came up a few times.
Yeah, so of course you can, as far as adding your own logo, your own company name, as Morgan showed, you can actually change that. So yeah, you can change the branding, background colors, and all of their styles to match your website or your product.
Excellent, thank you. The next one is, how would users access our app? Is it available on the App Store or on Google Play?
So it's actually not available on the App Store or Google Play. As Morgan showed, you can use the Publish tab to share a link, share it over email. You can use a QR code. And I'm not sure if you went over it, but in the settings, you can actually allow users to download an app directly to their mobile device. So right there, add home screen modal. When you open the app on a browser on your phone, you'll see a link that allows you to download it to your phone, to your mobile device, so that it's easier access.
Perfect. The next one is, can you purchase and sell through the app? I'm sure a lot of small businesses are curious about this one.
Yeah, definitely. So the forms are going to be the same as what you create in your regular form builder, right? So if you add a product list and a payment integration, anybody who is using your application can access your forms and then make purchases and all that good stuff.
Perfect. And also noticed that a lot of people were asking if you can use the app to schedule things. So an example that came up was, I run a swim club and would like to know if I can use it to allow swimmers to schedule pool time. So is that possible for users?
Yeah, as well. So the same as the purchases, your forms will still remain intact as when you built them. So if you include an appointment widget into your form, and will allow users to schedule appointments for pool time, doctor's appointments, or whatever the case may be.
Great. And then this one that came up is probably based off of the form builder itself, since people can save forms and continue them later, but they're wondering if Jotform Apps can be completed and saved as well.
Yeah, so there's the option to continue forms later right here, as you can see in the settings, which is actually works the same as it would on a regular form. You can go into the form, fill it out halfway through, decide to save it, and then you will get a session link emailed to you where you can continue building the form. Or sorry,
Awesome. Yeah, that's that's a great benefit for sure. Excellent. And then can we set it up so that the app remembers a user's data when they come back, I guess?
Well, if you save the form, right, then that does allow you to continue. But in terms of having the app remember users consistently as they come back, I do not think that that's a feature that's available at the moment. But like anything else, we can always send feature requests out to our developers and have them see if it's something that can be added in the future.
Great, thank you. And Morgan, you went through part of the demo. It showed the widgets that are available, and it looks like someone wants to confirm if all the widgets in the form builder are also usable in the app too, or if there are any restrictions on those.
So the widgets that are in the app builder are a little bit different from what's in the form. So Felipe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but within your form, you can add the widgets that are in the form builder, and those will still appear in your form when somebody clicks on one of these forms to open it. So if I had a widget, in the sponsor koala form, it would still show up. These widgets here on the app elements apply to everything else within the app. So like this image slider that I've added to the app appears here, not in one of the forms. Hopefully that makes sense. Felipe, is there anything you would add to that?
Yeah, definitely. So you're 100% correct about the forms maintaining the widgets that are already added to them. And so to my knowledge, the difference between the widgets that can be added to a form and the widgets that can be added to the app specifically are that the form widgets allow for collecting data. And you can't, but there is no widgets that allow for collecting data on the app. Instead, you will display things as you showed here, a button to access WhatsApp, SoundCloud playlist, and things of that nature. So, but yes, you are correct in saying that the widgets within the forms will still be intact.
Perfect. Another question that came up a lot was if you can send push notifications to people with the app already downloaded on their device.
So I don't think that the push notifications are available at the moment from the app itself. Yeah, I know that you can send push notifications through the Jotform Mobile App, the larger app that we allow for creating forms and viewing your data. But I think from these apps, push notifications are not possible just yet.
Thank you.
And can I tag on to that really briefly? I just wanted to clarify what Felipe just said. We have the Jotform mobile app, and then this is your app. So this is an app that your organization or your company or whatever is creating for you, versus our app where you can still create forms and everything, but that's still like where you would otherwise go to log into Jotform. So slight difference there, but I know that came up a little bit in some of the Q and questions that we got in advance as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And then someone was just kind of curious about how you can collect payments through the app. And then in addition, what percentage of each payment goes to Jotform?
Yeah, so Jotform actually doesn't charge any fees for collecting payments. So depending on the payment integration that you're using within your form, that third-party payment integration may have fees, but Jotform does not actually take any additional fees for processing your payments.
Perfect. And then another question is, how can we use the app to drive people to our website?
Oh, so as Morgan showed, there's actually different, the button that can use to link to different either URLs or different send emails. You also have the social media buttons available. And I believe there is another link. Yeah, there you go. Where you can actually include a URL as well there. So you can say, click here to visit us at our website, and yeah, make it a lot easier to drive more people to your website.
Great, thanks. Someone else said this resembles a link tree sort of tool. Could you use this on social media platforms to host a lot of different links? Have you seen this occur at all?
So I myself have not seen that. I'm pretty sure if you're able to embed something within your social medias, you can just take the embed code and then place it there. Or if you want, you can easily put the QR code somewhere in your social media page and then allow people to access the app through that.
Perfect. Yeah. And just as a kind of an additional point to that too, yeah, you can, I'm pretty sure you can definitely use this as a link tree alternative for social profiles, for Instagram or TikTok or anywhere where you kind of want to like redirect people to multiple different web pages or etc. So definitely an alternative to that. And then another question is, will you be sending a link to this recording?
I can take that one. Sorry, had to unmute myself for a second there. Yes. So we're streaming on YouTube right now. So that means that immediately after we're done here, you can go to our YouTube channel to rewatch this. So you can just Google Jotform YouTube, you'll find it. You can watch it right away. And we should be sending out a link in about a week. If you don't see a link and you really need one, feel free to email me and I'd be happy to send that to you. It's just Morgan@Jotform.
Excellent. Thanks, Morgan. So it looks like we are just about out of time today. So looks like there's still quite a few questions left. So if you have not received an answer to your question, feel free to reach out to support@jotform.com, or even just feel free to log into Jotform and kind of mess around with the app too. Sometimes the app builder, and that'll kind of help get a feel for any questions and answers. So without further ado, passing the mic back over to Morgan. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Felipe. Amazing help with the Q&A there. And Annabelle, thank you so much for moderating. Just wanted to also thank all of you on the line today. As Annabelle mentioned, we have a couple of different ways you can get those questions answered. Support is your best bet there. This is a tool we're really excited about, and we hope you are too. We do have one more live webinar this year. So in a few weeks, we'll be talking about CRMs with a couple of our partner organizations. So look out for that. And otherwise, just want to thank you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.